you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Apex Racing TV. I am going to be your host tonight, Aaron Smith, and alongside me is Nathan Richards. And in the production booth we have Samuli Kumo. And you join us today for a one-off event here at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben in Germany. And it's the RacingLab Xmas race that we usually do once per year. And well, it's an unfamiliar territory for most of our drivers today. A new car that was only introduced into iRacing just a few weeks ago, the M2 BMW, and one of the cars that a lot of people were very, very excited about and seems to be quite popular at the moment in the Rookie Series. And an unfamiliar track as well, Oschersleben, not being used too often here on iRacing, but it's the car and track combination we have today, and it should make for some fantastic racing. We have just entered into the 10-minute qualifying session, and well, Nathan, I'm about as unfamiliar with this track and car as I think most people are, so what are you expecting from tonight's race?
I mean, the track itself, I was lucky enough to try it when I went to the Sim Expo in Germany a couple of months ago, and to be fair, it's a difficult track. It's not easy to guide a car around, especially some of the high-speed chicanes. And also, the M2 itself is quite a difficult car to drive. I've driven it a couple of days ago, and I've got to say, I don't like it. I don't know why, but it's just, I can't get used to it, and yeah, it's going to be a very interesting evening. I mean, I hopped into the session earlier on during practice and I saw spin after spin after spin. So it's going to be an interesting night, I reckon, for a few of the drivers.
Yeah, I think I'm very much inclined to agree with you. It's kind of that classic old BMW, just simplicity, isn't it? It's just a nice compact body, a straight six at the front and rear wheel drive at the back, which it's kind of one of the only modern BMWs I'd actually consider buying. Along with maybe an M3 Touring, but it's a pretty good car. And one of my friends whose actually dream car is an M2, he was very eager to try out this car a few days ago, and he seems to enjoy it. It is very slippery at the back, as you would expect for a BMW. You kind of have to just drift it through most of these corners, but it did look like a bit of a handful to drive. And, well, not much downforce in this car. It's got a rear wing at the back, but I can't imagine it's really doing all that much. It looks like something straight out of Need for Speed Underground 2, if I'm being completely honest. But it looks like a fun track and car combination, and it's very, very close so far. About just over 1 minute and 30 in terms of the lap times. And, well, from first all the way down to about 17th place. I know these are just the opening few qualifying laps, but within a second, of that many cars. There's a spinner in the background and another one in the background. That's Gullickson, who won the Radical race yesterday. And, well, I'm expecting big things from him. But, I mean, if he's struggling in this car, I don't know how everyone else is going to get on.
I mean, I'm looking through, and I do actually recognise a few names from the Radical series. I'm just looking down, so we've got Scarrett, Larson, Haug, Strand, lots of drivers that have taken part in a lot of our racing races in completely different cars. So it's nice to see what they can do in a completely different machine. And yeah, as you say, top 17 separated by just over a second, very close, heading our way into the halfway point to qualify in the top 3, only separated by 72,000. So very close indeed, and I'm just going to put a disclaimer out, so I'm very sorry if I pronounce any names wrong, because I'm sure I'll butcher quite a few, so sorry in advance.
Well, I don't think people will mind too much. We're Brits after all. We're not very good at pronouncing foreign names, so as well, I do apologise if I get any of them wrong, but I'm going to try my best, so just bear with. But yeah, just coming through halfway through this qualifying session, the best times are going to start coming out hopefully over these next few laps. It's a fixed setup as well, so no tinkering allowed in these cars. It's just everyone with the same conditions, same car, same setup, same everything, and everyone gets an equal opportunity to show their skill and their pace. And some more experienced drivers in some other cars, like Scarrett and Larson, even they seem to be struggling ever so slightly around this track and in this car. And, well, compared to the Radicals, which those guys are usually driving, that car is complete understeer heaven, whereas this car is complete oversteer heaven. So completely one driving style to another. And, well, I mean, God forbid if BMW ever decide to make a mid-engine car, because, well, that's just going to end up in the wall.
Yeah, it'd be even more difficult to drive, and believe me, I don't know anyone that says a BMW is easy to drive. If you've mastered that and you find them easy to drive, then I don't know what you're on, because believe me, I don't know anyone that finds them easy. But we can see many improvements coming through there. Maya Andersmeyer goes to the top there with a 134.272. I think we saw as well Sigerson jump up into the top 4 there in the number 19 car, just over a tenth and a half off from that top time. And looking further down, many more improvements coming through. So I think this is what we'll see now. The next 3 minutes is just going to be lap after lap after lap. Everyone's got their first laps and they've kind of tried to learn as much as they can about the circuit, and now they've just got to go and put everything on the line to get their best qualifying lap in.
Yeah, you do have to take a lot of risks around this track. There's a lot of curbs and a lot of track limits that you have to push the limits of, as the off tracks around here can be ever so slightly an annoyance, especially through this tricky chicane here through turns 8 and 9. You do have to push the limits through there, but luckily this M2 is fairly good over the curbs. It's not a stiff, formula car. It's a fairly simple platform, and a lot of the drivers are using that to their advantage in this qualifying session. But I don't think the qualifying is going to matter too much, because this car is kind of slow enough and doesn't really produce that much dirty air that it will give good racing. And I think that's what we're going to see in that 45-minute race. We're going to get some fantastic racing up and down the grid. And I can't wait. We just got to wait about 2-3 more minutes for this qualifying session to end, and then we can get gridding, and away we go for a 45-minute race.
Yep.
And that should be a very, very entertaining one, I hope.
I mean, we've also got a mandatory pit stop, I believe, as well, which will also be very interesting, seeing when people are choosing to pick whether to go early or to go late. And yeah, could definitely throw a bit of a curveball into the race. Of course, as many drivers probably haven't done a 45-minute race in the BMW M2. I'm sure most of them are like 15-minute races. So yeah, very new format here for this brand new car on the iRacing game. And as we were saying earlier, it is very popular. I've been looking, obviously, when I've logged on and looking through, you got like 250 people registered, and I haven't seen that on any car for a very long time. So it's took the popularity. Of course, it is a brand new car. People want to try it out, but yeah, it's I think iRacing have done a good job on this car for sure. I
think so as well, and the fact that it's just another car that the rookies get to try out, and all of us get to try out completely for free. It's just adding to iRacing's roster of cars and tracks that you don't even have to pay for anymore. So it's a better time than ever, I think, to jump into iRacing, and you get a decent selection of tracks and cars completely for free. And well, if you want to continue, then you can fall into the money pit of buying track after track after car after car.
To be fair, like at first when I first got the game, I thought, oh, there's so much money being spent. But then over time, I've realised, well, I've bought a track for €12 or something, but I've driven it over 100 times. In the end, that price kind of just disappears, and you think, well, actually, it was actually kind of worth paying 15 quid.
Yeah, my friend has quite a good analogy, actually, of like how you can test if you've gotten a worth out of something. Because let's say you pay £10 to go and see a movie that's 2 hours long. So, £5 an hour, right? So if we're paying about £10 for a track, if you get more than 2 hours out of it, then boom, you get your money's back. And
exactly.
I think that's a decent way of looking at things. It's not perfect, of course, because I mean, let's be honest, ticket prices for the cinema have absolutely skyrocketed in recent years. I mean, it's become sort of somewhat ridiculous. I paid £12.50 to go and see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 the other day. My God. Oh, but oh well. Let's hope that inflation doesn't come into iRacing, as I don't think the prices have ever really changed that much, which is a good thing because it's already expensive enough. But yeah, we're coming to the end of this qualifying session now. There's only a few people left to finish their lap times, and it doesn't look like there's going to be too many improvements for some of the drivers. I think we're kind of going to see where everyone is within the next sort of 30 seconds or so, and it looks like it's going to be Maya on pole position in this race. And again, some other more experienced drivers like Gullickson and Scarrett and Gordon Haug, I would have expected maybe to be a little bit further up, and that just goes to show how difficult this car is.
Yeah, it is a difficult car. I mean, there's some drivers right at the top, comfortably sitting at the top, but then others struggle. It's one of those, it just depends on your driving style. Some people love an oversteering car, something that has a bit of a slip at the back end. Others hate it. I'm one who hates it. I can't stand a car that slides around. I want it to do what I want it to do, not just choose what it wants to do whenever. Yeah, a great time by Anders Meyer at the top with a 134.2. And I don't know if this is something we'll see with this car particularly, but over qualifying, we kind of saw one lap and that was it. Nobody really found an improvement since then, apart from a couple of drivers. So I'm not sure if that's something to do possibly the car not really being that good over a long stint in qualifying.
Yeah, this is the problem when you have a new car in iRacing, is there's a lot of unknowns, and I kind of think that's good though for some good racing, because yes.
I've got an interesting fact. One of the drivers on the grid is only 11 years old.
Hello? Oh wow, that... okay, that is very impressive. I don't even know what I was doing at 11 years old. Probably playing Call of Duty or something along those lines. I don't know. I don't even think I knew what iRacing was when I was 11, to be honest. But yeah, very impressive. Do you know the driver?
Liam...
The name?
Thorkerson. He's 25th in qualifying. Or at least he was when I looked.
Well,
keep an eye on him.
We will, yeah, I was going to say, we'll keep an eye on him, and we can enter into a 5-minute warm-up for these guys, well, to warm up or to cool down, whatever takes your fancy. And, you know, do you do some more practice laps, or do you, go on your phone like most of us would? I remember in these warm-up sessions, I always used to just, have a drink, go on my phone, or go to the toilet or wherever. I never really used them for that much practice, as well, Haverdal coming straight onto the grass there. I don't think BMWs have ever really been known for their off-track capabilities. No. As there's another driver there spinning in the background, that's William Arnson. And well, just coming to think of it, I don't think there's ever really been a BMW rally car, which probably... Yeah, that kind of explains a lot, to be honest. I mean, as a BMW owner myself, I can tell you that, yeah, it's a bit tail happy, especially in the wet. I have noticed that, exiting some roundabouts and maybe putting your foot down a bit. I've nearly died, maybe once or twice, but I'm still here, not crashed it yet, but it is a lovely car.
What car is it? Which type of BMW?
It is a BMW Z4.
Ooh, nice little cars they are. I think I'm
Yeah,
thinking
they
of the
are.
right car. They're little tiny ones, aren't they?
Yeah, I do
Vertical
mean this.
roof?
Yes. It genuinely is the smallest car I've ever seen. I parked next to a Fiat 500 the other day, and my car looked minuscule compared to it. It is such a small car. It's the first gen one as well, so
The old one. Yeah, they are small.
And somehow, I don't know how, because UK insurance makes no sense. I managed to get insured on a 3-litre as well, so it has the proper engine in it, not some piddly little 4-cylinder. I've got the big boy, the
I would like to know how
3-litre
you
straight
managed
six.
that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I was not planning on buying that car, and then one day I saw a good deal on a Z4 and was like, okay, why not? Let's do an insurance quote. And it was one of the cheapest insurance quotes I've ever seen in my life. I don't understand insurance at all. I really don't. I don't get it. I do not understand how it works. You know, I try to look on a sensible car, a VW Golf, $9,000. If I look on a sports car, about $1,000. It makes no sense, and I'm sure all of us have been through this experience of just stupid, unnecessary insurance quotes.
I think you're the first young person I've seen not be angry about insurance. I think I've never seen someone be happy that they've got insurance on their car for such a cheap price. I mean, most people are like, oh, $3,000 for a Vauxhall Corsa.
Yeah, I do know someone that is paying stupid prices on, I think it's a Polo, and it's like a 1-litre. It has like 70 horsepower, and he's paying like $2,500 for it. It makes no sense. I don't get it, but yeah, I'm only happy because I got a good deal, but I know plenty of people that don't. So,
but talking about this car, this M2, the start of the race, I think might be rather interesting because this thing, traction it struggles on. It's slippery. They'll have cold tyres. I feel like they're going to have to be a bit careful on that first lap to warm the tyres up. Otherwise, and I think we'll definitely see a few spins throughout the field. But when you've got 30-odd cars that are relatively small, heading down to one chicane together, I feel like it's not going to end well for a few. It's going to be an interesting one.
I think you're absolutely spot on. There goes another driver looping it round. I think that was at the exit of turn 3 there. And, well, that's what we're going to see a lot of tonight. And I genuinely do think you're absolutely spot on there. I think the first few laps are really going to be a struggle. And then with that mandatory pit stop, they've got to come in and possibly change their tyres as well. You know, we could see some incidents coming out of the pits there as well. I think this is going to be a really spicy race. I think the M2 being chosen as the car for this is, I think, a good one in hindsight. Maybe the drivers may be hating it slightly, but it's going to be an entertaining and fun race, I'm sure.
And something else to kind of throw into the mix to make it a little bit more exciting is that there is prizes for this. So firstly, we got a prize for the top 3. So it's a gift card, I presume, of RacingLab. And the winner gets 2,000 Norwegian krone. Second place gets 1,000 Norwegian krone. And third place gets 500 Norwegian krone, and then the final prize, which I wish I was driving in this, and I wish I was Norwegian, is they will have a random draw at the end for an Acertec Forte Formula wheel, which I believe is worth a lot of money.
Yes, you're not wrong. It is worth quite a lot of moolah, and well, the prizes definitely are going to be up for grabs in this 45-minute race, which you're gridding up for now. And it's going to be Andreas Meyer on pole position, just ahead of William Arnensen in second place, Thomas Asfaug in third place, Helix Fearson in fourth, Havard Gollikson in fifth, Angela Vet in sixth, Tavarin in seventh place, Rosseth in eighth, Gabrielson in ninth place, and Livingston rounding out your top 10. And then it's Alexander Scaret in 11th place, Oliver Va in 12th place, and in 13th place it will be Matt Strands. Then in 14th is going to be Kim Andre Bjorklund, 15th Haverdal, 16th Breivik, 17th Agard, 18th is Agard, 18th is Larson. Gordon Haug gets a very, very good start, launching away as they all instantly go into single file. Pretty sure everyone got a fantastic launch which is what you want to see as we head into the first few corners. Now, let's hope everyone can keep it clean. Not really an opportunity to send one up the inside. Oh, there's a bit of contact there in the background. I didn't quite see, and that's a few cars involved there. That's Livingston that got sent round, and I don't think he picked up too much damage from that, as Nepal as well got spun round. And a few cars there already into the pit lane. And I wonder who the driver is in 30th place. I don't know who on earth that guy is, but as we head towards the end of the first sector now, it has been relatively clean from all of our drivers, but just a few incidents here and there as Thasang trying to go up the inside there of Danielson couldn't quite get it done, and he stays in 19th place. And, well, it's been a fairly clean first lap so far. The first, I think, 20-odd drivers are relatively where they started, but just a few incidents here and there.
Yeah, a very surprising first lap. I expected a little bit more chaos, especially near the front. No, they all got away quite cleanly. As we do see our leaders, of course, here Maya, Arneson and Asfeg, our top three, and then, of course, Versen and Angeltvet, the top five at the moment, as they all head their way through to complete the first lap of the race. And, of course, these last couple of corners, it's tricky because you run a little bit wide, you got gravel, and then on the final corner you enter into grass, as we have a collision there, that being Gullikson colliding with Olav Var, and that was a weird one, wasn't it? It looked like the one car just kind of understeered and the other one just collected into them and just ended up spinning them round. A very weird one indeed, but a big shame for Olav Var there to drop down to 25th place as we head on to lap 2. But you can see here, Aaron, a lot of drivers still not too confident and trying to figure the limits of how to battle all the vehicles in this car.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As Gullikson, another very experienced driver, now down to 13th place. And, well, he's really had a bit of a poor lap. And, of course, with that incident with VAR, it's not helped either one of those drivers. But still a long way to go in this race, so plenty of opportunities for these drivers to make up ground. And, of course, with those pit stops coming into play, oh, who knows what kind of action we're going to get over the next 40 or so minutes. Plenty of opportunity for drivers to make up ground, getting very dicey there. Heading through turns 5 and 6. Now coming through the sweeping turn 7. And, well, it is quite a narrow and tricky track to make those overtakes, and you will see a lot of drivers following single file throughout most of this race. It's going to be in those pit stops where I think we're going to see the most shake-up within the field, as we go on board with Eric Rosseth and Gabrielsen, as they're quite close to one another, fighting for 6th and 7th place. But up at the top, it's Andreas Meyer and Arnensen, who are both pretty much checking out against the rest of the field. They're within 2/10 of each other, and everyone else just trying to do their best to keep tabs with them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, I don't think the slipstream in this car is that strong, so the good thing is for the top two, if they can pull away on pure pace, Asfaug and those behind don't really have much of an opportunity to catch up, as I think there we have a car that's possibly being lapped already. That being, I think, right at the back of the field, Ketil Nepal, who's 27th place, and luckily just moves out the way, lets all the cars through, and they can continue on having their battles, as we do have here Mail, I believe that is pronounced, in 23rd, obviously going very wide and losing even more positions than before. I think was in around 15th place before that one. As still there we can see Nepal pulled over, letting every single driver through as we continue on here. I think that's Livingston ahead as well, having this little battle here for 23rd place as they head through in towards the next left-hander. So yeah, very interesting track, I've got to say. I mean, it's very unique, isn't it? Because it's weird how we've got so many of these like fastish chicane. They're weird, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a very unique track, I must admit, and it's kind of, I think, a Marmite track. I think some people will either love this or hate this, and I would say I'm inclined to like it. I like the more challenging tracks, and I think this is one of a very unique experience on iRacing, and I think most people should give it a go. I mean, it's free. You don't have to pay for it, I don't think, so, you know, you're not risking anything by just giving it a few laps. And even better if you try the M2, because you don't have to pay for that as well. But up at the top then, Myra just trying to set some decent pace in these early laps. The gap is staying relatively the same to Asfaug, as now Asfaug himself is now pulling away from Severson and Angelect in 4th and 5th place. So a few gaps already bridging out, and the more that these guys fight, the bigger those gaps are going to get. And by the way, Gullickson had to come into the pits. I wonder if he had the meatball flag, and he didn't really have a choice after that contact with VAR. So he's all the way down in, I think, 26th place now, and he's got some work to do as we're heading nearly 3 wide, heading into turn 3. Still side by side here with Jasplalbo, and there's a car going slightly off the track there, and I think that's Gordon Haug, who's had a bit of an incident on the exit of turn 3, now heading into turn 4. He's fallen down a couple of places, and luckily didn't make contact with anyone, but I think went from about 17th place there and all the way down to 20th.
Yes, so still very interesting, and I've got to say that the battles in the midfield are starting to get more and more close, because people further ahead are starting to get into battles, and it's bringing all those behind back forward, so we're getting some really big clumps of cars in that mid-pack 3, 4, 5-way battles, as we do see here coming through into the final corner. I think that was Arneson there going really wide, and Neely spinning the car heading through the penultimate corner, and of course that's brought Asfeg batting back into this one now, only around 7/10 off the back of Arneson in second place. And here's a replay of William Arneson heading through into the penultimate corner. So, of course, you've got two right-handers at the final part of the track. It's a car turned straight into the gravel, and I've got to say, with the way this car works, he's quite lucky not to have spun it there, because that is a very easy thing to do when you hit the gravel in this car.
Yeah, it just looked like the car just was not having any of it heading into the final few corners. And well, I completely missed the apex there. Probably should have backed out a little bit earlier, would have saved himself going over the gravel. But, I mean, he's probably a damn sight quicker in this car than I am, so probably not going to listen to my advice. But he's still in second, but has lost about 4 5/10 of a second to Andreas Meyer in first place. And that's kind of time he can't really afford to lose, as the gaps in this car seem to be so close. You just have to stick to the back of the car in front of you. And honestly, just wait. You've just got to wait for an opportunity. This track, like I said before, the slipstream isn't powerful enough in these cars for you to get close enough and go down the inside, or around the outside if you're feeling brave enough. I think you've just got to sit back and be patient. It's kind of similar to how you'd race a GT3, where you've just got to wait for those opportunities, maybe get your elbows out a bit, and wait for those pit stops as well, as we're going side by side heading through turns 11 and 12, and that's big contact heading through those corners as well. And that's Gordon Howe being sent onto the gravel again, and we're still heading side by side with Thassang and VAR, I believe. This is for 16th and 17th round the outside for Olav VAR, and that's a very textbook overtake for the number 6 car. And well, he's on a mission after those early few incidents in this race, and very bold racing from him. And he's got a bit of work to do to catch up to the cars in front, but I can't wait as that's huge contact there with Livingston and Dalsbo as they crash into turn 1 into the barriers, and somehow the rear of his car doesn't actually look too bad, but you just saw in the rear view mirror, I think Livingston,
car.
Yeah, be careful coming back onto the track, Dalsbo. As well, Livingston was trying to go up the inside, but well, just judging from the rearview mirror, there wasn't really space there, and perhaps Simile can bring us up a replay so we can take another look at that one.
Yeah, an interesting one indeed there, but I mean, you've got 7, I think there, brand new cars all racing together into turn 1, something's going to happen, and you can see there, whichever car that is, I think it's not Danielson, it'll be the other car, just turned into the corner, and of course, ended up spinning both of them out, and Neely getting another car out of the race here. As you can see the rejoin, and I think that might have been Stalkerson there that kind of got cut off at turn number 1. There we are. This is Liam Stalkerson, of course, you know, only 11 years old and still racing here on iRacing. I mean, I'm 20 and I'm probably a lot slower than him, which is not ideal. Not ideal at all. As we can see though at the front, the gaps are the same as they were around 5 minutes ago, so nothing's really changing at the front, and that's just because it's so difficult to overtake, isn't it, in these cars?
Yeah, and mixed with a track that is difficult to overtake as well, it does make for patient racing, but also aggressive racing a little bit further back, like we have seen a few times. It's either one or the other. You know, you get the drivers who are further up, a bit more experienced and level-headed, who know how to play this patient game and are just waiting for their opportunities. And then you get the guys a little bit further back who want to get up those places as quick as they can and get their elbows out. And we've seen going side by side through corners where, well, going side by side isn't really recommended, like the chicane of turns 11 and 12 that we're just coming up to briefly. And I'm expecting to see a little bit more of that, as especially from about 16th downwards, it's very, very close. Whereas kind of 13th upwards, it is very close, but we haven't seen too much fighting, like you said. It's just been very patient and people waiting at the moment. I say that as Strand gets past Bjorkland, and we are getting some close racing, heading through turns 11 and 12. And Strand seems to have made his way past Bjorkland with ease there, as he puts himself up into the top 10. And, well, Bjorkland's had a bit of a tough start to this race so far, but still 3 places up from where he started, but now starting to slip back a few places.
Of course, and as we continue on, I've got to say, I'm quite surprised that they chose this track to drive on, because I'm sure that 90% of the drivers here are from Norway, but isn't the Rudskoga Motor Centre a Norwegian track? So wouldn't it have made more sense to use that track rather than a random track in... Well, I'm not going to say a random track, because that is going to offend a lot of Germans. But it's quite unknown in the world of motorsport, I believe. I've never driven here, apart from once. But it's a difficult track. Then again, we can say the exact same thing about Rudskoga Motor Centre, because that thing, that horrible downhill right-hander, in these cars would be... Yeah, I think it'd be like watching a bowling ball going into some pins.
Yeah, I know exactly the corner you're on about as well. And yeah, maybe they should have chosen Rudskogen, as that's another one of the unique tracks on iRacing as well. And I remember driving that track for the first time, and the first impression I got was it felt like a track from Gran Turismo. But mainly because of, you know, that first sector with like the rocks either side. It kind of gave Dragon Trail vibes a little bit, and I kind of like it. I think I drove it a lot back in the day in the Formula 4 car. And yeah, it was a pretty fun car and track combination, made for some good racing. And well, yeah, I do agree that in this M2 car, it probably would have been a bit of a handful. But then again, this car seems to be a bit of a handful everywhere, unless you go to, you know, the Daytona Oval. But that's, you know, not really saying much. But it looks like a fun car to fling around some corners. And well, I watched my friends do plenty of some races the other day around VIR. And my God, well, one of the races he didn't even make it to turn 1, so that's kind of all you need to know.
Yeah.
But here we go. Then Bjorkland going side by side with Strands, trying to get back that place that he lost, heading side by side through turn 3. The outside line is a little bit favourable on the exit if he can keep it on, and it does seem like he has, but just didn't get the best of exits there and has to sit back in 11th place. But this looks like this is going to be a great battle for that 10th place spot, as it's not just Bjorkland, you've got Haverdal and Agard just behind as well, eyeing up that 10th place, as just a few seconds up the road you have Scarrett as well, who's kind of in his own little world at the moment. But this battle for 10th seems to be really hotting up. Yep,
it certainly does. I mean, I've been looking over at the timings, and Larson as well in 14th is really starting to close, and as well the gap is over 3.5, 4 seconds. It's now down to 2.7 seconds, so I'm sure we'll see the number 46 car getting involved quite shortly as well, as there we can see. Of course, in a very odd livery, black, green and yellow. I believe that is the default livery though for the car, as we didn't unfortunately receive any liveries for this event, but of course either way the liveries themselves aren't that bad. I do like the plain white one though, that actually looks quite clean on these cars.
Yeah, BMWs tend to look fairly decent in just plain white, to be fair. As well, here goes Bjorkland trying to go around the outside of Strands, now turns into the inside, and there's a bit of contact. That instantly to me looked like a bit of netcode, and that's really unfortunate. It was a great battle between those two, and Strand has now been sent to the Shadow Realm and falls all the way down to 14th place. And that's, I think, was netcode, unless my eyesight is playing up on me. But Yeah, that's unfortunate and weird, considering they're kind of from the same part of the world. So, yeah, that's an awkward one for iRacing to deduct. But at least it moves him up into 10th place, I guess. That's something for Kim Andrew Brooklyn to celebrate about, as his performance yesterday at Zolder in the Radicals was absolutely sublime. He looked like a man on a mission. He went from, I think, 10th place all the way to the podium and loved an outside move. And, well, he nearly pulled off another one there, but iRacing's netcode just decided to spoil the moment, unfortunately. As, yeah, he's still got a bit of work to do with Haverdal and Agard behind.
We've got quite a difficult car and track combo here, but also, while there for Arneson's done that twice now, did that earlier on. But I've got to say, was it Imola and Radicals, did you say? That or Zolder, sorry. Zolder. Radicals. That also sounds like quite a painful car and track combo. Because Zolder's not an easy track. It's a beautiful track. Luckily, I've been there once. My only trip outside the UK was to Zolder, but it's not an easy track to drive, is it, with those horrible chicanes? Because I think there's, 4 chicanes in one track?
Yeah, we were talking about that a lot yesterday, and to be fair, it was actually a surprisingly good race. A lot of action happened. There was some good racing, and I would recommend to anyone watching this to jump on the Radical SR10 and maybe join us here on Apex Racing TV every single Friday at 9 o'clock GMT, and see if you can fight your way through the field like Brooklyn did. As there are a lot of drivers in this session that I have seen a lot in those Radicals. Like I was mentioning earlier on, Gullickson won the race yesterday, and so he's currently in 25th, so we're not faring as well in these BMW M2s. Gordon Haug, another name, Bjorklund, Skares, as this is a battle with Gordon Haug, as he's in the back of this 3-car train from Livingston, Thassang and Haug, fighting for 17th place. But as they head through turns 8 and 9, not really any space for 2 cars to go side by side through there, and they will just have to be a little bit patient, wait a couple more corners as we head now down this mini back straight all the way down to another chicane into 11 and 12. And well, luckily this car has ABS, so you can just stamp on the brake and not have to worry about locking up, as it looks like Gabrielson might have been able to get past Angela Vett for 5th place. And that's not a move we've seen too often, as yes, he has. He's gotten into 5th, and with a few cars following him behind, he's going to have to stare at his rearview mirrors for a few corners. But he's managed to get the move done, and hopefully can look on forward.
Yeah, definitely. That gap now, it's 2.5 seconds to Helge Viersen in P4. So a lot of work here for Gabrielson to do to try and push forward and close up to that P4 and possibly go even closer and go to a podium. But of course, 3 cars behind, very close, will be in contention here to jump back up into P5, and certainly will fight very hard, as we do see here. Leander Angelsvet there in P6, looking to close in. That gap's around 3/10, of course, got overtaken a lap ago, but seems to have enough pace here to stick right on the back of Gabrielson and look to possibly go for another move and get back into the position he was in earlier. And we see Taveren and Rosetta as well behind him, P7 and P8, all looking to get involved and move up some of those positions. And the good thing is they've got a decent gap to Scarra, and then the gap behind him's also another 3 seconds back to Bjorklund. As I say that, he gets overtaken by 2 cars. So the jinx of mention in the name when they head through this horrible part of the track. But yes, the good thing is they can all have a battle, because the cars behind you have a 4 second gap and then another 4 second gap back. So 8 seconds to P10. They can enjoy their little battle for P5.
Yes, they can. As Livingston, that's big contact there. And somehow he doesn't get sent off into the barrier. But now that is Thassang, who has a lot of damage, and so does Gordon Haug. What on earth have these guys been doing? Oh no, that's a big one on the straight, and that looks a little bit suspicious to me. And that's a huge one. Well. That's a big 4-car pileup with Haug, Thassang, Vedal, and Livingston. And well, I don't know. That was looking awfully aggressive down the straight. Maybe some tensions rising through those last few corners, and it just boiled over once we headed onto the main straight. And, well, the innocent bystander in that was Vidal. He was just coming through the main straight and was launched into by, I think it was Thasang. And, well, his race is pretty much over. And let's take another look at this. This was it's just weird, utterly strange as how tries to go into a gap that wasn't really there. They all crash into one another. And you can see Vidal there, just absolute innocent bystander in that. And they all smash into the wall. Huge damage on every single one of those cars. And that is going to be the end of their races. And wow, that was very unexpected, very aggressive from all of them. And now we've got nearly 10 drivers a lap down.
Yeah, I mean, the two cars that were on the outside and inside, I think they both moved over, but it was so slightly. But because they was already 3 wide, you know, it's bound to happen, isn't it? You know, you touch a car within a millimetre, slight bit of contact, boom, you're off. These cars are sliding for a start, so automatically makes it very difficult to kind of catch it. But when you're going down a straight, you're at, you know, quite a high speed. It's one of those things. Unfortunately, it happens. I think that Livingston, who was on the inside, I think he was very aggressive. But I suppose they're 17th. There's nothing to lose at that point to try and keep that position or try and make another couple of positions as well. So one of those, bit aggressive, but they were 17th. They didn't really lose much from that. But they've probably got a lot of anger for each other. So I'm sure if they're going to have a chat later on, they'll be rather furious. But give it a couple of hours, let them settle down, and they'll probably forget it even happened. But as all that happens behind, still the battle for P5 rages on here. With Gabrielson, Angel Vet, Tverin and Roseth all still looking to battle out for P5. And at the front, you know, like we said before, that the top 3 are decent on pace. They're all very equal, so they've not gained and not lost. So it's all about waiting for a mistake. Arneson's going to just be hoping here that Meyer makes a mistake. As long as he doesn't make a mistake, he doesn't really have to worry too much about Asfag behind. So if you're sitting in the top 3, it's probably quite boring at the moment.
Yeah, it kind of has been that way, hasn't it, for most of this race. They've not really been able to do much, not much fighting, and they're probably just working on their tyres and fuel for when that mandatory pit stop comes about, which should be sometime soon, hopefully. I'm expecting probably around the 30-minute mark is when we're going to see pit stops, but honestly, that's just a complete guess. I'd love to know how fuel efficient these cars are and how many litres per lap they're using, as they start with about 35 litres in this fixed setup. So, you know, if they're using 3 litres a lap, they should have been able to go about 12 or 13 laps. But clearly, they're a little bit more fuel efficient than that. So we'll just have to wait and see for when they do eventually come into the pits. As well, DeSalvo has come into the pit lane himself. Is that a scheduled pit stop, or has he picked up a bit of damage as well? About half the cars on this grid have at least some kind of bodywork damage. A lot of banging doors and wheels and bumpers have gone on today. But rubbing is racing, they like to say.
Exactly. I mean, they're pushing hard and they're just exploring the limits of the car, I suppose. You know, I'm sure this car will certainly be featured in leagues, whether it's, you know, a long-term league or some little endurance races. So it's best now to kind of learn how the car works, learn how you can battle, you know, how much you can make slight bits of contact, and then in the future, these guys have a lot more knowledge when it comes to racing the M2. So it's all about learning and getting ready for the 2025 year with these brand new BMW M2 cars, which I've got to say, they've been chaotic, but I've enjoyed the racing because they can follow quite easily and you can go side by side in a lot of corners. I know this track helps because it's quite a wide track, but either way, we've seen lots of side by side action, so I'm sure this car will be featured quite a lot in our racing in the upcoming future.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you. It's been fairly popular so far, been at least a few hundred cars every single sign-up so far, and hopefully it continues to be that way. We like seeing new and popular cars in iRacing, and people like BMWs, so, you know, again, my friend's dream car is a BMW M2, this exact one as well, not the new ugly M2, oh god, no, that thing looks utterly strange. No, this is the M2 that he wants, and I think most of us can probably agree. It's a fairly good looking car, and like I said earlier, it's that classic BMW formula of a straight 6 rear-wheel drive. fairly simple, and 300-400 something horsepower. So I if someone offered it to me, I wouldn't say no. It wouldn't be my dream BMW of choice. So that goes to the BMW M5 E60, I think, from about 20 years ago, the one with the V10 in it. I know that car's unreliable. I don't care. It has a V10.
Is it the E61 or the E60, something like that?
I think it's
very
the E60.
nice.
Yeah. I believe it is the E60. BMW, naming things, it gets a bit confusing. But I think we have our first scheduled pit stop as Angelaves comes into the pits. The number 5 car could potentially be our first scheduled pit stop of the race, as maybe we are starting to get pit stops fairly soon, within the next few laps at least, as he came in from, I believe, about 9th place, and we'll see where he comes out. Another driver, VAR, has come into the pit, so maybe this is the time where we will see these pit stops coming about, and it doesn't look like anyone's going to be taking tyres, so that doesn't seem to be anything these guys are going to have to worry about. Just fuel for these guys, as Oliver pulling into his pit box and slightly missing it, but just pulling in front there, and he's not taking tyres either, so it does seem to just be fuel for these guys. And I wonder if anyone's been fuel saving. I doubt it, but it could be something that some people have been considering.
I mean, possibly the top 3, because they haven't caught up, they haven't really slowed down, so possibly they could have thought about a bit of fuel saving because of their gaps. But another key thing to notice here is Gabrielsen is now within a second of Helge Siversen there in P4. That gap was like 4 seconds a few laps ago. Now it's only just over 1 second. So still, the battle for P4 and possibly the podium could still be on, because these gaps they were starting to come down very, very quickly. And of course, with pit stops coming through as well, things are all going to change, as we do see Alexander Skarek coming into the pits. We've got Havdal Agard as well, all heading in. Of course, I think these 3 involved in a battle earlier on themselves, so all heading into the pits, and hopefully don't miss their pit box, as we have Strand and Stjorkerson as well, all jumping into the pit lane. So I reckon, lap 20, lap 21, probably everyone will have served the pit stop, unless you go risky and go as long as you can, and then just have a little top up before the end.
Yeah, it's just all about the risks, isn't it? And I've seen it happen plenty of times before. Some drivers choosing to take more fuel than others, and it sometimes working beautifully, and other times not working out so well. And we can quickly take a cheeky look at the pit stop times so far. And the fastest drivers seem to be doing it in around 13 odd seconds. And Angelaves was fairly slow in his pit stop at about 18 seconds. Havdal was a bit slow as well, 15. Strand was about 14. But Skaret and Agard were fairly quick with about 13.6 seconds. So that might be around where we're looking to see those pit stop times. And hopefully, within the next lap or so, we can see the entirety of the front of the field come into the pits, which they basically are. There's only a few drivers which haven't come in yet, as all of our front runners now coming into the pit lane. Only Tavarin and Rousseff are staying out, so clearly they have been saving fuel over the last few laps. And this is where we could potentially see a change of lead, or at least the net lead of the race, if any of these guys have been smart enough to outwit their opponents, as we just patiently wait another 10 or so seconds to see who will come out in front, as Arnsen seems to have absolutely jumped the gun there from Andreas Meyer, and he was about a second quicker than him in the pit stop. And well, clearly Arnsen, Andreas Meyer pushing his luck coming out of the pits there, nearly loses the back end. And well, now Meyer, who's been leading pretty much this entire race, has got a bit of work to do.
Definitely, because I mean, as we've seen before, it's not easy to overtake, or at least catch up, especially when these top 2 have got so much pace in their cars. So it's going to be hard here it's going to be hard for Meyer to overtake, but also once he catches up, it'll be hard for Arneson to defend, because it's easy just to send a move up the inside and just hope it works. So a very interesting race here for the top 2, as they are separated by just around a second at the moment, with 15 minutes to go, 2/3 of the way through this race. And then we have, of course, 3 cars at the front yet to pit in this one. So we'll see if these choose to pit now. Yes, they do. Moving over to the left and heading into the pit lane they go. Bjorklund as well, I presume, will follow suit once he reaches the pit lane entry. And then, of course, we'll see our top 3 emerge, and that, of course, being Arneson, Meyer and Asfaug.
Yeah, Rousseff coming into the pits there was spluttering, as Bjorklund clearly also struggling, as he needs to slam on the brakes there, make sure you don't break this pit limiter, as I think Rousseff just about made it into his pit box, but might have lost a little bit of time there from spluttering in the pits. And we'll see what kind of time he is doing as wow. Tavaresson has been very quick in the pits. He was only about 12 seconds. Rousseff was about 13 as well. But Tavaresson jumping the gun there and putting himself into 4th place with a very, very impressive pit stop time. And coming out side by side with Severson. And well, I think he might just about keep ahead of him. And I think that's a lap car, actually, he came out side by side with. But nevertheless, he came out very, very close to Severson. And, well, that was very, very close between those two. But Tavaresson, 12 seconds, the fastest pit stop we've seen so far in this race. And clearly staying out just one more lap has helped him a lot. But up at the top, Meyer is very, very close to Arneson. And perhaps William has maybe jumped the gun a bit and put too little fuel in and is having to fuel save.
That's certainly a possibility, but also out of the top 2, Arneson was the one driver we did see making those slight mistakes here and there, running a bit wide, hitting some gravel, hitting some grass, and of course, with the gap block, with the gap being 4/10, one little run wide here could ruin Arneson's leading position and could easily drop down to 2nd, as that will be Matthias Havdal there, dropping down to 13th place, I presume having a bit of contact, or maybe just hitting the curb too much, has another spin when re-entering back onto track, and I think that is his race pretty much done and dusted with here. Of course, we will have a replay now of what happened. So having a battle side by side, let's see now as they head their way through. Hops the curb, and so I think he was already losing the car, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he hopped that inside red curb and got caught, and I think just made the spinner happen a little bit quicker than it would have done.
Yeah, I think you're actually spot on there. The car just looked a little bit unsettled going over that curb at turn 8 and was already spinning by the looks of it. Maybe might have been able to catch it if the car on the inside wasn't there, but yeah, he was already losing the car, and like you said, the other car there just spun him around that little bit quicker, and unfortunate for Havdal, who I believe was inside the top 10 there, and while having 2 spins there, yeah, definitely not going to help his case. I believe he was fighting with Agard there, or Larson, as, that's a tiny mistake there for William Arneson, and this could open up the opportunity for Andreas Meyer to potentially overtake, as they basically are bumper to bumper now going into turns 11 and 12. And Andreas Meyer looking for any kind of gap. Is he going to pull the switch back on William? Doesn't manage to find the space this time, but the pressure clearly getting to Arneson, as going through even these corners, this is going to open the opportunity for Andreas Meyer to go up the inside as he barges William out of the way and puts himself back into the lead of this race. But William is going to fight back as they head across the line to start lap 22. And William clearly feeling the pressure, making a few mistakes on this lap. Now into turn 1 we go. He sends it up the inside and puts himself back into 1st place. And he kind of needs to do that, as I think he doesn't really have the consistency and the pace to match up to Andreas Meyer. So the best he can do is to just keep track position, be aggressive, get those elbows out, and he has an opportunity to win this race.
Yeah, brilliant defence there by Arneson to get the move back into turn 1, and they put himself back into the favourable position as we continue on here. And the good thing is there's lots of corners where you can easily defend that inside line, which is what Arneson can use to his advantage, and also just try and force Meyer offline, make it go a bit wide, and make him go to a position where he loses a bit of a run when they head down some of those straights to give him that advantage. Of course, what happened down at turn 1, had a better run into the corner, had the inside line and kept that first place. There's a brilliant move there by Gabrielson into P5 ahead of Fjørsen. A brilliant move indeed. That could have ended in tears, but now moves up into P5 and he's going to try and close down on Taveren in P4 as they continue on, looking to close down onto that podium spot. Fjørsen gets back past Gabrielson and jumps into P5 again, as we do see Maya with a 3/10 gap as they head into the final corner. A little bit of a rear lock, I think, there by Arneson. The car slipped out, has lost a little bit of time as they head their way down to turn 1. Let's see, do we get a move here by Anders Meyer as we head into the first corner? He's going to close in, but nowhere near enough to make a move here.
Yeah, no, but it does seem like William just keeps missing apexes. I'm not sure if that's maybe just the way he takes lines in this track and car combination, or maybe the pressure is getting to him. As going through turn 13, the second to last corner at this track, he does keep missing that inside line, and then again through turn 1 he did it again. So I'm not quite sure, maybe he is just feeling that pressure and is making a few mistakes, but track position is probably what you want round here. And he's keeping it for now, and he's going to have to get his elbows out within the next 10 minutes if he wants to win this race. He definitely has the opportunity to do so, and it's going to be a very entertaining battle between those two, and we will keep an eye on it. As we cut back to the battle now for P5 as Severson managed to get back past Gabrielson, and these guys have been battling for most of this race. And, well, they're one of the few drivers who've been doing that and managed to keep it completely clean so far. As we saw on the last lap, they went side by side through turns 8 and 9 and managed to come out the other side completely scot-free, which is just brilliant racing between those two. And I hope that it can carry on all the way until the white flag. As don't count out Rousset as well. He's right behind them and just waiting anxiously for maybe some inevitable contact between those two. As well, we're getting awfully close up at the front once again. Is Andreas Meyer going to try and look for a gap? He's going to move towards the outside, but it was just a bit too late for him to go for a move, and made William Arnson go a bit deep into turn 1 there, but not deep enough. And this is just going to be a mind game, isn't it, over the next 8 minutes?
It will. I mean, I think Meyer could have easily went for a move up the inside, but it would have been quite... as we have contact there between Agard and Buell. I think Larson heading through into turn 1. But yeah, it would have been very interesting there if Meyer went up to the inside, because we know Arneson's going to defend that position. And I reckon that if he did go to that inside line, push Arneson a bit deeper, it could have possibly ended in contact. So for Meyer and Arneson, they're just going to play it safe for now, have their little battles, but not get too aggressive with the sends and the moves, as we still see this battle here evolving for P4 and P5. As you can see here, Severson still looking to close in on the back of Tavera, and of course the Gabrielson behind him P6, and Rousset there in P7 looking to try and possibly make a move as we head our way through to the next right-hander here. And of course you can see brilliant defence here by Severson at the moment, just keeping Gabrielson behind. Knows that Leander possibly has a bit more pace, but of course can use these defensive lines to his advantage and keep Gabrielson behind for now.
He's just going to have to get his elbows out completely over the next 7 odd minutes. And, well, it's been, like I said before, it's been a great battle between these guys throughout this whole race. And it's been very clean, very sensible. They've been very fair with each other, and let's hope that continues. As I head through the first few corners and we jump back to this Bjorklund and Agard battle, which was heating up on the lap before as they made contact going through the first few corners. Is it going to happen again as Agard looking up the inside? Is he going to go for it? Not on this occasion, he doesn't, and Bjorklund will just about keep that 10th place spot for the time being. And, well, that's that contact on the lap before. I have no idea how they managed to keep it on the road, as they were both practically drifting their way through the first few corners. And, well, this car, honestly, from what I've seen from most of the onboards, you're just drifting it through most of the corners anyway. Wow. So that's possibly why they were able to keep it on. As Arnson there, you can just tell from a driver when they're feeling the pressure. As just the way the car looks, the way they're driving. Throughout this whole race, he has just looked a little bit on edge, like you were mentioning before, those few mistakes in the early part of the race, especially through this second to last corner here, managing to keep it clean this time though, and just needs a good exit round this last corner pretty much every lap, and he should be okay, and does that on this occasion. The slipstream will not be powerful enough for Andreas Meyer to get close enough, and he will gain some time, but over this entire straight you can see there, he only gained about half a tenth, which is, well, a bit pathetic. He may as well not have had the slipstream at all, to be honest. But definitely better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see by the way Arneson's driving, he's pushing to the limit. He's going, right to the edge of the track limits every time. And Meyer's just following behind comfortably. He's not pushing as hard. He's going to save his tyres, possibly save a bit more fuel just sitting behind and lifting off into some of the corners. It's definitely looking like it's in the it's in the best position here for Meyer. But Arneson, as long as he keeps playing risky and defending that inside line, Meyer's got to have that second guess about thinking, well, do we make a move? Because would I rather finish second or possibly get into contact to finish last? He's got to think of weighing up the options here of go for a risk and finish first, or stay safe and get that second place, unless of course Arneson makes a mistake.
Yeah, it's just, what do you do in Andreas Meyer's position? Do you get your elbows out? Do you push the limits of this car and try and get the position yourself? Or do you just play a bit of mind games and try and put the pressure onto William Arneson and force a mistake, which, I mean, to be fair to William's credit, he hasn't had any big errors so far this race. Just a few moments where he's gone a bit wide, gone onto the gravel, like there, to be fair, just a touch wide to the final corner. And even though Andreas Meyer is very, very close, I don't think he's close enough to go for a move into this first corner. It's just too awkward to go for a big dive up the inside. And he's just going to have to painfully sit back. And this is the thing about fighting for second and first, is the driver in second place, just, you have to be patient. If you get too aggressive, you risk taking out the driver in front or yourself. You risk putting the pressure too much on yourself, and then you'll make a mistake. And you've just got to have that calmness about you. And yeah, sure, sometimes you might not be able to get the place you wanted, but hey, second place is better than finishing last. So it's better to keep it safe and have some fun than risking it all just for one tiny more place. But then again, we're all racing drivers. We all come here to win. We don't come here to finish second place. So there's kind of the battle of two minds, isn't there? A bit of Jekyll and Hyde going on. And what do? It's so anxious and taxing on the mind as a racing driver, especially in a long race like this, 45 minutes, where Andreas Meyer was leading for so long. He knows he can do it. He knows he has the pace and the ability and the talent. But the question is, as we head into the final two laps, can he do it? As they're getting so close, and there's contact! They've inevitably made contact. And William Arneson has been spun round, and after me monologuing for so long, that's such heartbreak for William Arneson, as there wasn't really a gap there for Andreas Meyer to go through, and the battle that we were longing for, it's all come to an end in this second to last lap, and we can take a look at it. A bit unsettled on the exit there for William Arneson. And there just wasn't really space there for Andreas Meyer.
Yeah, I think that's possibly going to go into Meyer's fault there. Into the final corner, turned in a slight bit early, and of course just collected the rear of William Arneson, who's driven a brilliant race. Absolutely brilliant. Has been in an attacking position and has been in a defending position at the front, and has done a very superb job. But also, hats off to Anders Meyer, who's also driven a brilliant race and has had the best paces. Everyone took pole position and now will be on course to take a win. And of course, that's Veig in P2 and Tavares in P3, who I don't think anyone saw getting a podium here, was in the mid-pack for most of the race, but got the pit stop timing correctly, came out ahead of the battle he was in, and then now he's on for a podium position, as we still have that battle for P5, but now turns into the battle for P4 with Fjörsen, Gabrielsen and Rosa.
Well, I don't know if there's any stewarding in these races, but that was, well, yeah, I don't know if that will be looked at after the race, and maybe Andreas Meyer possibly feeling a little bit guilty there. But, I mean, you could clearly see the pressure was getting to William Arnson, and making that slight mistake just put Andreas Meyer off a little bit. And, well, the contact you saw there between those two, yeah, it's a shame that we don't get to see a great last lap battle for that race win between those two, as we are now on the white flag of the race. This is going to be the last lap in this race here at Oschersleben, and Agard now seemed to have made contact, and is that at the last corner?
I think it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, on the inside, that's where Agard's gone off, and I mean, I think Agard got involved in an incident earlier on, so definitely not going to be too happy at all. Is Nikolai Agard in P12, but still, you know, P12 isn't the worst position in the world, as we do see there. I think Arneson had a bit of an off-track or something, as we did see a little red dot pop up by his name. And of course we do see Roseth and Gabrielson here having a brilliant battle for P5 at the moment. You can see these two pretty much glued together as they head their way through. Roseth goes wide and Gabrielson keeps that P5 spot for there, but I'm sure that P4 battle is over. He's just got to hope he can keep Roseth behind for literally half a lap here to try and take a top 5 here around Oschersleben.
Yeah, he should be able to do it. That was very ballsy between those two. And again, very clean racing from Gabrielson, Sversen and Rosef this entire race. But Andreas Meyer, well, in controversial circumstances, he led the race for so long and ends up winning here at Oschersleben, taking the checkered flag. And Asfalk actually not finishing too far behind in second place. And Tveren will round out the podium in third place. Not sure he was expecting that one. And William Arnson, what could have been for him, as he comes across the line in 7th place. And I would not blame him if he is feeling a little bit beaten up after that one. And, well, we'll hopefully get to see some drivers. Oh, there's a driver that just went straight into the side of another driver into turn 1 there. I mean, that's typically what you get after a race. As Matt Strand seems to have made a mistake at the final corner. And I don't know if he's lost any places because of it. But a mistake nonetheless there from Matt Strand as he comes across the line in 13th place. Just waiting for the final few drivers, as there's a driver going into the pit lane. I'm not sure if that's a car that's a lap down. I believe it is.
Oh,
it's Gordon Howe spinning on the final corner. We've had a lot of drivers doing that. Is he going to reverse his way across? Yeah, he is. He's going to see if he can reverse his way across the line. He's the last one to finish on the lead lap, so it doesn't really matter what he does. As he comes across the line in 18th place, he's had a bit of a messy race as well. But I think he'll probably leave here with a smile after a bit of a cheeky end to this race. And, well, that was a very interesting race, if I do say so myself. I don't think I've seen anything like that for a long time.
Yeah, but, I mean, it was a confusing one, interesting, but also I think we learnt a lot from that about how this M2 drives, and it's not easy, is it, at all? And to battle, it's 10 times harder. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. This did look like a little bit of a handful there for most of our drivers. And even to race it, it just looked a little bit... Well, I mean, it can take a beating, clearly. A lot of contact here today. And, well, after all of that action and 45 minutes worth of racing, it was Andreas Meyer, again, in controversial circumstances, who ended up taking the victory ahead of Thomas Asfalk. Just about a second between those two as they finished first and second. And then Christopher Tavares finishing in third place. Bit of a shock podium for him because of the contact with William Arnson, who finished in 7th in the end. But Sversen in 4th, Gabrielson in 5th, Roseth in 6th, Arnson, like I mentioned, in 7th, Ankelefeth in 8th place, Garrett in 9th, Bjorklund in 10th place, Larson 11th, Agard 12th, Matt Strand in 13th, Havdal in 14th, Olsen in 15th, Mahel in 16th, Dalsbo in 17th place, Gordon Haug in 18th, and then your final few drivers, Livingston, Vidal, Thasang, Storkström, Danielson, Breivik, Va, Gullikson, Nepel, and some bloke at the bottom. I don't know who that is, in 28th place, but he never took to the grid. Yeah, I don't know who on earth that guy is, but yeah, he's probably a bit of a silly little guy, nonetheless. But that's well,
it,
a lot of action in this 45-minute race, and I don't think anyone is going to be joining us for interviews. Well, actually, we've got Andreas Meyer, who I believe we can drag up for a quick interview. And well, Nathan, do you want to handle this one?
Yeah, can do. I'll drag him in. Anders, great to have you with us. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. So, a brilliant race. I mean, I think it's clear to say you had the best paces of everyone in the BMW, but I do want to know what happened on that penultimate lap of yourself and William Arneson.
Yeah, I've been looking at it, and it's a shame because we had a great fight all race. Obviously, it was so hard to overtake on this track with this car. Not really any obvious chances without the driver in front making a mistake. So looking at it from different angles, it looks like it's a classic case of 2 into 1, but obviously it's not a place I would normally go on the outside, but he made a mistake in the corner before with the slide, so I couldn't just stop. I kind of had to go on the outside, and yeah, hard to judge anything on it, but anyways, real shame that it ended like that.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, you know, your pace overall was very good in a brand new car. So, do you like the BMW M2, or is it just something that you happen to be quick in?
I think it's a fun car. I haven't really tested it a lot before yesterday, and we did a practice with the team earlier today. And I have the same engine and gearbox in my car in real life, so it's actually very familiar with how the car gets the power when you shift. So you have to be careful in the corners. So that was quite fun to see that it's actually quite similar. But yeah, I'm a BMW guy, so I have to love it.
Yeah, a great thing indeed. I mean, the hard cars to drive, I don't like it. I tried it once and I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick to not driving because I'm only 1.5k and this thing's beyond my level. But I mean, if you had to pick one track to drive this car around, what would you pick?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. Maybe for this race it could have been better with something with more straights when you look at the overtaking. But I think like when you did solo laps on this track, it was actually quite fun with this car. The car felt pretty quick since it's such a small track. But I don't know. Maybe Rudskogen, the Norwegian track, could have been good with this car. But yeah.
I mean, I think that track would have been interesting because that downhill corner, which me and Aaron spoke about earlier on as well on the broadcast, I think would be quite horrible on the first lap with cold tyres. I think it would end badly for many indeed. But well, that's all from me. Anything from you, Aaron?
Not much. I was actually going to ask, would you rather have this race been at Rudskogen, as, you know, Norway would have kind of made more sense?
It's kind of an overused track in Norwegian races, obviously, but maybe for the overtaking sake. But yeah, it was fun. This, at least for me, is a track that we don't see very often, so it was fun to race here as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a lot of fun for you guys. And, well, thank you for coming and having a chat with us, Anders Meyer. And, well, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a quick mention or shout out to?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the team, obviously, for putting this together every Christmas. And a big shout out to Apex for streaming it, as you usually do, I think. So, yeah, thanks to you guys.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, and we hope to do this again next year. It was a very, very fun event to watch and commentate over, so congratulations on the victory, Anders. Go celebrate it, and, well, good luck for the draw as well.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. There we go.
That was your race winner, Anders Meyer, and looks like everyone else is being a bit too shy to come and have a chat with us. As it was a fairly, up and down race for a lot of our drivers, which is fair enough. I would probably be a bit frustrated after that one as well, unless I won. So fair enough. But any last thoughts or words from you, Nathan?
I mean, it was an interesting one. I'm glad to see the car in the game because I think it's very interesting when we have battling. It looks fun, especially in qualifying the gaps are really close. So yeah, I'm excited to hopefully commentate over this car a little bit more in the future.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. It definitely looked like a bit of a handful, but a nice handful, I think, as I think this could be quite a popular car in the coming few months, and hopefully it stays that way and doesn't fall into obscurity like some other cars on iRacing do. But yeah, that's going to be all from here, from us at Apex Racing TV today. It's been an absolute pleasure to commentate over this race for you. I've been your host, Aaron Smith. Joining me is Nathan Richards and Smoley Kumo, doing all the clicks and buttons and cameras and whatnot in the production booth. Things I don't understand. And he did a very, very good job today. And it's been a pleasure from myself, and hopefully we'll see you again here on Apex Racing TV very, very soon.